Hi, it's Ted Lee with Neighborhood Realty Solutions, and in this video I'm going to review our affidavit of understanding that we have the seller owner of record complete. They're going to initial that they understand what's being said throughout this document. They're going to sign it, date it, and actually have it notarized. It's one of two documents that we have the seller notarize. The other one's called the Notice of Contract, and I'll talk about that shortly. In this document, we're going to have the state and the county that the property is located in. The seller is going to initial that they're currently in default and that they don't have sufficient money to make their either back payments or keep their loan current. They may include a statement about what they tried in the past, such as a loan modification. They're going to give us the property address, and they're going to state that they agree that this is or is not, or they're going to state if this is or is not their principal residence. And they're going to state that they initial that they reasonably believe they do not have any equity in the property. Now, if they state that they think they do have equity in the property and that equity is sufficient to obviously pay all the debt owed on the property and the realtors that are involved in the property and all the closing costs, then that is not a short sale. So in those cases, you should not bring those to us. We are only dealing with negative equity properties that require a short sale. All right, let's move down a little bit. Here in the section 3, it says they understand that their mortgage holders, even after agreement to a short sale, may require that the difference between the original balances and the negotiated balances be paid and hold me personally liable for such payment. Now, sometimes this is done as a promissory note request. Sometimes it might be at some future date where the lender proceeds to go after the borrower for any balance as a deficiency judgment. Now today, this typically does not happen. In fact, it's never happened in our negotiations, but sometimes it may happen with a loan or a second lien holder who, let's say, only gets 5-10 cents on the dollar and wants to preserve that lender's rights to go after that homeowner for some balance, some amount. But notwithstanding how that's going to play out, because we cannot guarantee anything that might happen in the future, the seller needs to initial this paragraph. They understand that the buyer will attempt to negotiate a short sale with some or all of the owners of the liens on the property. Okay, and that's why it's a short sale. We come down here. They understand that the buyer makes no promises as to curing any back payments. So if they owe, in fact, I remember one where we were doing it where the seller owner of record had not made mortgage payments for 30 months. Well, we didn't say we're going to bring that current, and in fact, that particular seller owed nothing at closing, as should happen, but we just want to point out that we are not bringing them current. We're just trying to negotiate a settlement for anything that this buyer may owe the lenders. They agree to vacate the property as of a certain date. Now, this statement says before 3 days before the closing. In many cases, we're hoping they actually will vacate earlier, as it might help us to move the property depending on how they might keep up the property, particularly if there might be resistance or difficulty of allowing people to get in it. But the minimum is that they have to vacate 3 days before. They don't have to vacate, of course, before we know we're going to have a short sale approved. They have to agree to waive any rights for any prepaid escrow property taxes. That's all part of the short sale negotiations. So they're not getting any money out of the short sale. They have to agree that they have the opportunity to seek legal, tax, and financial counsel. You know, they can or they don't have to, but they have to agree that they've had the opportunity to do that, and they have to initial that paragraph. They also understand that the buyer is not acting as a counselor, advisor, consultant, or nonprofit agency. The buyer actually will close in the name of a nominee of the related company or may choose to immediately resell the property to another party for a profit. So we're disclosing everything that might happen to this seller owner of record, and they're saying that's fine with me. I'm initialing straight down these paragraphs so that they understand what's happening. They understand that the buyer agrees to provide the seller with copies of documents within 5 days of this agreement. Understand that they have certain rights under state and federal law, including but not limited to bankruptcy, redemption, or equitable rights that may give them additional rights. Now, we do want to know, of course, if the seller owner of record is going to pursue bankruptcy protection. In other words, we might not proceed to help someone out or work on their short sale if we might work for months and they just decide, well, we're going to seek bankruptcy protection, and this property cannot get sold for a year or sometimes longer. So we want to know that. They understand that that signing this agreement, they have agreed to sell the property to the buyer, and they're bound by the terms of the agreement. So in other words, we're not starting short sales with people that don't really think it's a sale. The purchase and sale agreement is a valid contract where the seller owner of record has agreed to sell the property to the buyer, Corey Taylor LC, for consideration. And consideration, in this case, is the promise to pay the negotiated liens and all the payoffs, the settlements that were stated in the supplemental short sale addendum, that final negotiated purchase price. So it's not let's try it and then I'll change my mind. No, it's a contract. It's an agreement, and they've agreed to sell it. And they're allowing us to do what we need to do to try to get the property sold. They understand that they have no right or option to repurchase or live in the property. And that should be very, very clear. That's just not allowed by any one of these approval letters or short sale affidavits. Now, also the buyer has agreed not to give the seller any money at closing. So what the seller is hoping to get out of the short sale is avoid foreclosure and not owe anything. And this is what's supposed to happen in a successful short sale. Or they just want to, at a minimum, avoid foreclosure. That's a big deal. When they end up in foreclosure, the waiting time to buy a new house is at least 5 years. And when we complete a successful short sale, the waiting time is just 2 years. They understand the buyer has chosen to close this transaction with a specific title company. We use a national title company, the most experienced short sale company called Clear Title America. Now, they're going to check if English is or is not their native language. And they basically just tell us here that they understand what this contract is saying. They're not under any influence of alcohol or drugs. They know what they're signing. They understand the buyer is not an attorney or a legal advisor. They have to seek their own counsel if they want to. They understand the buyer's made no assurances or guarantees as to the success of a short sale or completing it in a particular timely fashion. And in fact, the buyer's made no assurances the property may result in a foreclosure action. The buyer cannot control what the lender is going to do. We can only do our best, and as we've stated many times, we're very good at. We, in fact, are achieving a greater than 90% success rate, but we still cannot give any assurances that any particular short sale will be 100% successful. The owner agrees to hold the buyer, his heirs, assigns, employees, agents, officers, members, shareholders harmless and indemnify the buyer in their return for any attorney's fees, whether or not litigation ensues, or cost or any litigation expenses. In other words, we're proceeding to do this. We're spending our own resources to try to make it happen. But if some event happens because of the actions by the seller owner of record, then the seller owner of record agrees to hold the buyer harmless. The buyer and or his successors, assigns, and agent, employees, and trustees are not a debt relief agency. So in other words, we're saying we're doing this on our behalf to try to buy the property, and we're not a nonprofit agency or a debt relief agency. So we want the buyer to understand all that. In fact, the real effect of a short sale is the buyer is trying to get the lender to agree to release the liens and settle out the debts so that the buyer can buy the property or arrange for the property to be sold to a third party higher offer independent buyer. So this seller owner of record avoids foreclosure and hopefully avoids all debt obligations that seller owner of record originally entered into with all the lien holders that have security interests on the property. And that's about it. At the very bottom, as I mentioned, this document is going to be notarized, and we're going to get a copy of it. All right, that's it for this document. Talk to you soon on another video on one of our other documents.